Akers, and I'm the president of the Georgia Historical Society. On behalf of all of the members, I want to welcome you here tonight. This is our second program this year. Right, number 2. Yes. And before I introduce the program, a couple of things up front. If you haven't signed in with your name and information, we'd appreciate that. If you're not on our mailing list or you're not a member of the society, and if you'd like to join, there is applications out there to join, and there's also copies of our newsletter. I also want to encourage people to volunteer. I give my volunteer speech at all of these because we're having trouble getting folks in their busy life to volunteer to serve on the Historical Society Board of Directors. We have one new director who came on last month, and we'd like to get 1 or 2 more. Some of us are getting a little gray and a little tired, and we'd like a little extra help with some of the projects, which include opening the Brick Museum and serving as a monitor in the museum on the hours that it's open, and other small kinds of tasks that we have that we're trying to do to preserve the history of Georgia. We do have the Brick Museum, we do have Gordon's Mill, and then we do have the basement of the town offices filled with stuffs in the archives of information that's provided to us. So if you're interested, see me or see any other member or look us up. We also have a program coming up in August 19th. And the program on August 19th has to do with Vermont one-room schoolhouses. And there was 14 at one time, Cindy, is that right? There was 14 one-room schoolhouses in Vermont. Some of them, huh? Georgia. I'm sorry. Georgia. Yeah. Georgia. Folks, some of those schoolhouses are no longer in existence, and some of them are used as homes, and some of them are been maintained. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the history of those, and each member of the Board of Directors of the Historical Society has been assigned 1 or 2 schoolhouses to talk about the history of the schoolhouse for about 5 minutes or so. We'll have a presentation with some photographs. In some cases, we'll show the schoolhouse that may not be there anymore. In other cases, it may show the building as it was when it was used as a schoolhouse, and you'll see it today, and in some cases today, it's a family home. And that's on the 19th of August here at the library, so we'd encourage you to come to that as well. Tonight we have a program that each year we usually have one program in co-sponsorship with the Vermont Council on the Humanities. And the Vermont Council on the Humanities is very important. It offers us an opportunity, in a lot of cases, to share the history of Vermont. And we've had programs in the past. It makes it possible for us to bring these folks here tonight to talk about and share the history of Vermont. And so we really appreciate what the Vermont Council on the Humanities has enabled us to do. And we wouldn't have tonight's program without them. So with that, let me talk a little bit about the program. The program is going to be reviewing Vermont history through song. It's going to be looking at the records of music that was played in Vermont going way back over the years that told the history of Vermont and what was going on at the various times. And we're going to have 2 folks from the Humanities Council be doing that. We're going to have Linda Ratke, and we're going to have Arthur Zorn. I learned that both of them were former teachers in Vermont schools in Vermont who are retired and continuing to serve Vermonters. So join with me in welcoming them.
Thank you, Don. It's great to be here, and it's great to be a retired teacher. We find all kinds of things to occupy our time. And one thing we've discovered is an amazing resource in the Vermont History Center, which is in the old Spalding Graded School in downtown Barre. It has a collection of sheet music that's amazing. And it's in the vault, it's open to the public. And so the songs you'll hear tonight come from there. Although once in a while in these presentations I get a song from the members of the community. So some of you may have songs living in your piano benches. Make sure that they get to that archive so that we can use them for study. The other thing that I wanted to tell you about is if you're looking for a little gift for a teacher or somebody who just loves Vermont history, I was lucky enough to make a recording that benefits the Vermont Humanities Council and all their work. So maybe afterwards when we have our cookies, you can take a look at that. So the first song is a parlor song. And in those days, mid-19th century, most Vermont farm women had great musical educations. Every Vermont farmhouse had a piano and sometimes an SD organ as well. And these songs had beautiful lithographs on the cover. And this is one example of it. a farm in the state of old Vermont, where the birds sang sweet and gay, where my schoolmates and I played, and the air was fresh with scent of new mown hay. The day I went away, Mother begged of me to stay, as I kissed thee the last time down by the gate. Now her face no more I see, as she's sleeping peacefully in the schoolhouse, in the churchyard far away in old Vermont. I am lonely when I think of home and my old mother dear, who is sleeping in the churchyard. How her voice I'd like to hear. Her old rocking chair she sat in, as she rocked and sang to me. Far away in old Vermont is where I long to be. Now far away from home I'm sitting all alone, and the past comes back to me as a dream, and I picture I can see, just as plain can be, the old schoolhouse and the shady maple trees. The mill, the bridge, the brook, for hours I stood and looked at the water rushing sweetly on its way. Does the same church bell still ring, and the choir sweetly sing, as they did in days gone by in old Vermont? I am lonely when I think of home and my old mother dear, who is sleeping in the churchyard. How her voice I'd like to hear. Her old rocking chair she sat in, as she rocked and sang to me. Far away in old Vermont is where I long to be. I was thinking about the schoolhouse. I'll have to come up in the summer and see it later on, but we took a little drive and made sure we saw that and the Standard Memorial, which you'll hear about a little later, and then up to the town offices, because I had found the listing of the Civil War dead in Georgia, and I wanted to check them against that list. So you'll hear more about the Civil War a little later, but right now is the earliest song in the collection. If you have a program, oh, we have a harpsichord, yay! 1798, so it's not the earliest song, but it's the earliest published song. And it's beautiful. It's wonderful to hold it in your hands and with your little white gloves. And it's called The Green Mountain Farmer. The words are by Tom Paine. And so when I read that, I thought, oh, Tom Paine of the Revolution. We were talking about that. We were in Brookfield, Vermont. It turns out Tom Paine was a local Vermonter who wrote the words. And the music is by a British composer who's buried in Westminster Abbey, friend of Haydn. So we took a British tune and put Vermont words on it. The Green Mountain Farmer. Blessed on his own paternal farm, contented yet acquiring, below ambition's gilded charm, yet rich beyond desiring. The hill-born rustic, pale and gay, ere prattling sorrows valley, or ere his pine top spies the day, sings cheerly through his valley. Green mountains echo Heaven's decree, live Adam's law and liberty, live Adam's law and liberty. Should hostile fleets our shores assail, by homebred traitors aided, no freeborn hand would till the vale, by slavery degraded. Each youth would join a patriot brave, to die proud freedom's martyr, and shed his latest drop to save our country's glorious charter. Green mountains echoed and would be, fight on for liberty, fight on for liberty. copy is too hard to see, but it's amazing. A lot of these songs had many verses.
Oh, yes, lots of verses on it.
Yeah, and what that's telling me is people had a lot of time. Days before radio, it was your entertainment. That you would go over to someone's house, would stay together on the piano, and hear the songs completely. But because I'm stuck with an hour's thing, I've cut down some of the verses.
Thank goodness. No, some of them go, I mean...
I know, and this next
show
one I
you.
didn't know what to do, because it's about the temperance movement
Yeah.
in Vermont, yes. And I grew up in a WCTU household. Does anybody know what that stands for? I was Methodist. WCTU is Women's Christian Temperance Union. And when I was growing up, I just sort of rolled my eyes because I thought it was sort of just a prissy church lady thing, but not so. These women were social activists. They knew what alcohol was doing to the lives of families, women and children, people living in poverty. Later on, they worked for things like establishments of kindergartens, abolition of slavery, women's suffrage, and nowadays they're still active working on things like drunk driving and alcohol education. So there are so many songs about temperance from Vermont. I mushed them all together in a little medley, and I need a temperance beverage.
She says it's a temperance beverage.
There you go. I am right from the mountain, just from Vermont. My visit to Boston I now recount. Some notions of trade was my intention, and I went to look at the great convention. And when I got there, I do declare the whole community of me did stare. Just 'cause I was from Vermont, they came to the State House to discuss the curses of rum and a tarnal fuss they made about alcohol reigning o'er us, and they sang a long tune, and this was the chorus. Hail Columbia, happy land, hail Columbia, happy land, for I will drink cold water when I see fit to do it, and when I want it hotter, I'll add some ginger to it. Oh, come resign your ruby wine, ye smiling sons and daughters, for there's nothing so good for the youthful blood as the pure and the sparkling waters. So leave your brandy, rum, and porter, sign the pledge and drink cold water. Clear the track, clear the track, clear the track of rum and porter, sign the pledge and drink cold water. Oh, that will be joyful, joyful, joyful. Oh, that will be joyful when young men drink no more. And we all say, Amen.
I worked up a thirst listening to that
I
one.
know. And we were talking about take the pledge. I remember the pledge too, although I've lost my pledge card. Lips that touch liquor. Do you remember? Did anybody know this one?
No?
No, our elders? Lips that touch liquor shall never touch mine. And I wish that my grandmother were still alive to know that I grew up to sing temperance songs. So that continues today, but it started before the Civil War. I was looking at that Uncle Tom's Cabin placard there, and I was thinking about the Civil War in Georgia. We've just finished an amazing 4 years commemorating the sesquicentennial of this war. And in little Vermont towns, in a way, the story is the same, and the story is heartbreaking. And you can see that. We went to the town offices, and you see the roster in this little town for Civil War, and then you see the other wars. And there were 32. And so what I decided to do is put together just a little bit of the Civil War songs. We have a whole program just of Civil War songs from Vermont, but dedicate each one to a young man from Georgia. And they were young. And we were both high school teachers, and they were all, 18 years old. And I have the list with me, and if you look at it later, you may recognize some families still here today. I know in Middlesex, where I'm from, those farm families are still around. So let me tell you a little bit about them. Let's see. Actually, I should start with Stannard, because I think many of you know about him. But he was a survivor of the war. There are 32 men in the War Memorial, and he was the very first Vermonter to enlist, and he fought all over. He was at the first Bull Run. He was at Gettysburg. He was wounded at Cold Harbor, and he came back home, and he wasn't done with the Civil War because
St. Albans.
St. Albans raid. He was really pivotal in that. So that's George Garrison Stannard. So my dedication will be to the men who didn't come home to get a monument. Sometimes they have a monument, but their bodies didn't come home. 40% of the Union dead lie somewhere, wherever they were buried, often in national cemeteries. And I said most towns have similar stories. This is unusual, though, for such a small town. You have 3 young men who died at Andersonville Prison in Georgia. And as you probably know, it was a horrible thing. And when I just got that tap water, I thought of that, because in the letters you can see an obsession with clean water. You can find, so Howard Coffin's thesis, his Civil War historian, is that the farm kids were so used to good, clean spring water. And they went marching off and setting up tents God knows where, and the latrine, where. And so here are some. Benjamin Franklin Jocelyn, he was 19. He was a POW from Mechanicsville. He died in Andersonville after 3 months. This is Marquis, I guess you'd say it in Vermont, right? Marquis P. Sheldon. He was a POW at Petersburg, and he died at Andersonville Prison on this date, July 15, 1864, of dysentery. And the last one was Benjamin Hall, who was 18, and he was a POW, and he had 2 months in Andersonville, and he died of disease. So I'll dedicate this next song to those men. It's called "'Neath the Pines of Vermont." It's about a Vermonter wanting to come home who's wounded, wants to come home and so he can die and be buried here. Among the pines of dear Vermont, you'll find a lonely grave, a mound that's marked with marble white. He died a hero brave. He went to war for those he loved, and as he marched away, with hearts so light and armor bright, they heard him proudly say, "If I should fall on the battlefield, take me back to the scenes of my childhood. Lay me at rest 'neath the town I love best, that grows round my home in the wild wood. I love the flag with the stars and stripes, and always will bear to the front. But if in the fight I should give up my life, let me sleep 'neath the pines of Vermont." One day he came back home from war, with honor and with fame, but with the glory that he'd won, with him a death wound came. And as they laid him 'neath those pines, he lay there all in pain. "O star shone bright," he said, "good night," and murmured once again, "If I should fall on the battlefield, take me back to the scenes of my childhood. Lay me at rest 'neath the pines I love best, that grow round my home in the wild wood. I love the flag with the stars and stripes, and always will bear to the front. But if in the fight I should give up my life, let me sleep 'neath the pines of Vermont."
Now the best song ever. Oh,
I know, this is Arthur's favorite for the piano accompaniment. A lot of times these songs, they're written by self-taught composers, so his accompaniment is rather pedestrian, rather mundane. And what Arthur can do sometimes is zip them up a little, but in this, the accompaniment is written like a German art song, like Schumann or Schubert or somebody. It's really great. It's also great because it's about the Lamoille River, and it rhymes Lamoille with toil, which I think is a hoot. And it's a love song. It's a love song that nobody's heard since 1867 when it came out, I guess. It's been on somebody's piano bench, and I think it's pretty cool. And I'm going to dedicate it to a couple of boys from Georgia. Here's one that's buried in Annapolis, who died of disease at the age of 18, William Call. And then there's Henry T. Blashley. He was 20. He had just become married. He was a farmer. And he died in prison and is buried in Danville, Virginia. There is a cenotaph about him. There's a marker, though, in Georgia Plains Cemetery. And the last one is, a lot of these names. Bartholomew Sherbet, 21. He died in the Wilderness, the Battle of the Wilderness, in May of '64, and he's buried at Arlington National Cemetery. So we're going to pretend that they all had girlfriends named Mary for the song. The breath of the morning and sparkling the dew on the lawn, when new is the summer's adorning and the winter is over and gone. Yes, our loved one is purer and fairer. She is bright as the day star of truth. When waking or dreaming I meet her in the light and the freshness of youth. She has cheered on her soldier to duty, though far from the scenes of his toil, to her own loved river of beauty on the banks of the dashing Lamoille. Dear, dear is the home of my childhood, each valley and mountain and lea, but vain without love is the wild wood, without love in the land of the free. When our flag flies from ocean to ocean, and the din of this battle is o'er, I will fly on the wings of devotion, and part with my Mary no more. Then she'll welcome her soldier from duty, to her arms from the scenes of his toil, to her own loved river of beauty on the banks of the dashing Lamoille. And here's a song that became really popular, I've read, not only in our Vermont regiments, but all through the Union Army. So it just kind of passed around, published in Burlington. And it's about a girl named Eulalu. It's hard to say. I've never known a Eulalu. Beulah, maybe. And a beautiful picture of her on the front. And so we have two Georgia boys to dedicate. They both were in love with this lady, Eulalu, I'm going to say. And it was Henry Bullock. He was 21. And the poor guy, you know, he just had 1 month in the service, and he died of typhoid. And here's one that's buried in Alexandria National Cemetery in Virginia. Hezekiah Blake, he was 35, which is pretty old, and he died of disease 1864. There's a charm that's thine alone, binding me with mystic spell. There's a sweetness in thy tone that the tongue can never tell. There's a witching light that gleams in thine eyes of azure blue. Let me live beneath their beams. I am told there is given to the angels beauty rare, but I often doubt that heaven could excel thy beauty there. I am thine in heart and soul, yes, my love is pure and true, though it be not known to you. And this last was to all the veterans, and especially those from Georgia. This was written for a Decoration Day parade in Rutland.
How about this one?
There we go. Hail, soldiers of the Civil War, because of you all free we are. You're still the boys of '61, the heroes of those battles won. Though now and then you met defeat, the end was victory complete. And though your numbers now are few, you're still the grand old boys in blue. They're marching by, the veterans few, though crowned with gray, still wear the blue. Their campfires gleam in wars no more, but glow in peace from shore to shore. No bugle call, no martial strain shall summon them to arms again. But should our country need their aid, in front would march that old brigade. What was the date on that song? Was it 1908, 1907? I was just thinking the Standard Monument was 1908, and at that point they were having the Memorial Day, Decoration Day parades, and they still had the veterans from the Civil War, and then they had the new veterans from the Spanish-American War. Really interesting program, the whole Civil War program, so I've given you a few highlights. But now to Vermont people. Wish we could sort of teach Vermont history through the songs. This one's about Jim Fisk. He was born in Brattleboro, he's buried in Putney, and it's sort of a protest song. He was one of those 19th century financial speculators. He made millions of dollars, robber baron, not a good guy to be a union person around, that kind of person. But the woman who wrote this from Bellows Falls thought that first of all, he was a grand philanthropist, and also she's protesting the way that justice is dispensed differently for rich and poor in this country. He was murdered. They called it a love nest, the Hearst papers called it, and apparently some business associate came in, and they were rivals for the same actress, and just shot him and walked out. And then when the trial came, he paid off the judge and he paid off the jury, and he walked because he was rich.
Never happens.
Oh, no. So it was the OJ kind of thing in those days. So here we go. More than you ever wanted to know about Jim Fisk. If you listen a while, I'll sing you a song of this glorious land of the free. The difference I'll show twixt the rich and the poor in a trial for jury you'll see. If you've plenty of coins, you can hold up your head and walk from your own prison door. But they'll hang you up high if you've no friends or gold. Let the rich go, but hang up the poor. In the trial for murder we have nowadays, the rich ones get off quick and sure. With their thousands to pay to both jury and judge, you can bet they'll go back on the poor. Let me speak of a man now dead in his grave, as good a man as ever was born. Jim Fisk he was called, and his money he gave to the outcast, the poor and forlorn. We all know that he loved both women and wine, but his heart it was pure, I am sure. For Chicago's great fire showed the world that Jim Fisk, with his wealth, still remembered the poor. When the telegram came that the homeless that night were starving to death, slow but sure, with the lightning express nobly manned by Jim Fisk, flew to feed all those hungry and poor. Now what do you think of this trial of Stokes, who murdered our friend of the poor? If such men go free, is anyone safe to walk from outside their own door? Is there one law for the poor and one for the rich? It seems so, at least so they say. If they hang up the poor, why hadn't the rich ought to swing up the very same way? Don't show any favor to friend or foe, the beggar or prince at your door. For the millionaire you must hang up also, and never go back on the poor. Now this next person was not a Vermonter, but he was wildly popular here. It's Teddy Roosevelt. And I hope we get to the island sometime, because he actually visited up in Isle La Motte at one point. This song is by a Vermonter, and you'd expect that we'd enjoy him because of he was a hunter, he was a conservationist, but this song is about a couple of things. One is that I didn't know that he was the first American to win the Nobel Peace Prize for bringing about an ending to the Russo-Japanese War. And the other thing this song talks about, there's some racist verses about the Japanese and the Panama Canal, which I won't sing, but
She
they're
never
interesting.
sings them. They're
I
really,
know, but they're
really bad. They're right here.
I know. No, but they're worthy of study because it shows that we weren't immune to whatever other racism was going around. And also he talks about how Teddy had a really rough time with Congress, which was very corrupt, so apparently he just couldn't get anything done.
No.
No.
I'm so glad we're over that.
I know. So they're like 17 verses, but why don't we do like 3 or 4?
Okay.
I've sailed in every sea, met every king and potentate, including old John Dee. In every corner of the world you know King Edward's fame, but there's a ruler greater still, no doubt you've heard his name. It's Theodore, the peaceful Theodore. Of all the rulers, great or small, he is the greatest of them all. He's first in peace, he's first of all in war. He's in demand in Yankee land, hurrah! Hurrah, hurrah, hurrah for Theodore! When Russia fought the Japanese, we thought they'd never cease. A certain party stopped the war and brought them both to peace. When they awarded him a prize for stopping Russia's wars, they found him at the White House fighting 7 senators. It's Theodore, the peaceful Theodore. The Senate thought he was a joke. He stopped their graft, now they're broke on salary. They'll have to live once more. Their wills are made, they're all afraid. Hurrah! 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 Hurrah for Theodore! One more, your favorite.
Best verse.
Yeah. Our Theodore's a hunter too, in spite of all his cares. He's hunted mountain lions and he's hunted bulls and bears. The only failure he has had since hunting he began was when he hunted Congress through to find one honest man. It's Theodore, the peaceful Theodore. He is our hunting president. He chased that whole damn regiment. Don't make him mad. He's awful when he's sore. He even scares the teddy bears. Hurrah! 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 Hurrah for Theodore! And this is Dewey, right?
Dewey's even better.
Commodore Dewey is even better. You may know of him as, he's the biggest military hero ever come out of Montpelier, certainly. He's a Montpelier boy. And when he returned in 1899, it was after the Battle of Manila Bay in the Philippines. The whole town came out. There was bunting all over. I've seen the photos. In the Historical Society, there's like 18 pieces of literature about Dewey, like poems and skits and sonnets and odes. They rhyme Dewey with everything. So Dewey Day was a really important thing in Vermont history, and so maybe only 27 verses, no, just do a couple.
Oh.
But they're amazing songs, all about this great military hero who actually tried to run for president briefly. Commodore Dewey sailed into Manila Bay. He silently appeared at early dawn of day. Oh, how his guns did plunge into the Spanish fleet. They gave our Navy boys a victory complete. Hurrah, hurrah, hurrah for Dewey, let the welcome ring. Hurrah, hurrah, hurrah for Dewey, he's the Navy King. Admiral Dewey now proclaimed the Navy King. His praise throughout the land, the people shout and sing.
Huzzah!
He is the nation's pride and stands without a peer. So cheer for Dewey, boys, cheer all together, cheer. Hurrah, hurrah, hurrah for Dewey, let the welcome ring. Hurrah, hurrah, hurrah for Dewey, he's the Navy King. I think fourth graders could learn that. That's our Vermont history curriculum. I think it'd be a great way of learning history. Now, I'm really sorry, especially being in Georgia, that I don't have a song, that I haven't been able to find a song about Chester A. Arthur. So if anybody finds one, please let me know. I've been looking. But I did find the re-election song for Calvin Coolidge. And it's called Keep Cool and Keep Coolidge. And I thought that's a little contemporary. Turns out Cool was a beverage. It was like Moxie maybe, some kind of temperance beverage that, you know, nowadays Pepsi and Coke own everything, but back then every town had its own bottling plant, and maybe it was like Kool-Aid or something. So this one is, we even found a fan. Remember one point somebody brought one that said "Keep Cool and Keep Coolidge." And again, that's not a tradition we have anymore. We don't have campaign songs that are composed for people to sing at rallies. Quaint New England farmhouse on an early summer's day, a farmer's boy became our chief in a homely, simple way. With neither pomp nor pageantry, he firmly met the task. To keep him on that job of his is all the people ask. So keep cool and keep Coolidge is the slogan of today. Keep cool and keep Coolidge for the good old USA. A lot of politicians cannot do a thing but knock, but Calvin Coolidge is a man of action and not talk. So just keep cool and keep Coolidge in the White House 4 years more. We have a chance to do it in this year of 24. He's been tried, he's never wanting, he is giving us his best. Keep cool and keep Coolidge is our country's mighty test.
If Howard Dean had had a song like that.
Bernie's song.
Pittsburgh. No, you can't go there.
A lot of the songs I found about Chester A. Arthur were using existing songs like the Battle Hymn of the Republic, and then they put the words on. But I'm looking for an original song.
Well, no, you could go. A Brooklyn boy, he says he's from Vermont.
When we were trying to do one for Deb Markowitz, we were trying to come up with that. Anyway, now we're going to leave politics. And yes, we are. And just go to the Vermont Farmhouse and parlor song tradition. The next program we're developing is called Vermont's Musical Ladies. And it's about these songs that were just published in our community and meant for entertainment and often meant for community events. And I wanted to just get one parlor song that I think is remarkable. First of all, the cover is great, but also they rhyme Vermont with gaunt, which is sort of hard. There's a modest little cottage way up in old Vermont, where childhood's days were passed long, long ago, where a dear old Christian mother knelt each night beside my bed and asked the Lord above to bless her Joe. In fancy I can see her as I sit here all alone. I see the self-same boy so tall and gaunt. I can see the friends of childhood gathered round that cottage door in that little village way up in Vermont. I can see again the schoolhouse, I can see my mother too. I can see the self-same boy so tall and gaunt. I can see the friends of childhood and my old friends staunch and true in that little village way up in Vermont. I can see again the schoolhouse way up in old Vermont, where as a child I learned my ABCs. Where dear Mary, boyhood's sweetheart, now my wife called me her beau, as oft we played together neath the trees. But she has gone to heaven with her little baby girl, and I am left in sorrow, care, and want. Life has lost its charm, I long for rest beside my darlings there, in that little churchyard way up in Vermont. I can see the same old schoolhouse, I can see my mother too. I can see the self-same boy so tall and gaunt. I can see friends of childhood and the old friends staunch and true in that little village way up in Vermont. And now a love song to a piece of furniture. The old armchair.
Look, it's a long one.
And what happened to this one is interesting. It was pre-Civil War, the old armchair, and then it got sort of stolen because they didn't have intellectual property right law, and so it became a Civil War song called The Vacant Chair. This is pretty corny, but
I want to give you the dramatic intro.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I love it, and who shall dare to chide me for loving that old armchair? I've treasured it long as a holy prize. I've bedewed in the tears and embalmed it with sighs. 'Tis bound by 1,000 bands to my heart, that the tie will break, not a link will start. Would ye learn the spell a mother set there, and the sacred thing is that old armchair. I sat and watched her many a day, when her eye grew dim and her locks were gray, and I almost worshipped her when she smiled and turned from her Bible to bless her child. Years rolled on, but the last one sped. My idol was shattered, my star fled. I learned how much the heart can bear when I saw her die in that old armchair. 'Tis past, but I gaze on it now with quivering breath and throbbing brow. 'Twas there she nursed me, 'twas there she died, and memory flows with love untide. Say it is folly and deem me weak, as a scalding drop start down my cheek. But I love it, and cannot tear my soul from a mother's old armchair.
That's really sad.
It really is. And I was thinking about this is going to be a problem when we do the Vermont Musical Ladies program, because the songs I'm finding are just, people maybe felt more comfortable with death, or maybe death was a daily thing that was in the home.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of children's songs about that, and then this, and of course the war songs. And I still remember down in Milton, we were at the senior center there. Is it Arrowhead? Yeah, I think. And they had invited some homeschoolers, so they're elderly people, and then in the back was a bunch of, God help me, 8th grade boys. And yeah, right, exactly. So if you have middle schoolers in your family, that was the song I was most worried about, because when things are very sentimental, they get really squirrely. I mean, they're boys together. And at the end, I asked the guys what they liked, and said, I love that armchair song.
We love our mothers.
They do. They
Any
just,
age,
I know,
doesn't
and
matter.
they really did. And so it was lovely that they could respond to that overblown sentimentality with a genuine feel. Yeah.
But now you've got something different.
Well, now is the Civil War era. We'll finish the Civil War, and then we'll have some cookies and talk. Instead, not Civil War, Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of
I remember
Commerce,
that.
yes.
So these are songs, many of them from the women's clubs. They had wonderful contests, song contests for Grange or Old Home Days or school or church. And so I have the winners and the losers, and they're all in the Vermont History Center. This one was written by Edwina Flint.
It's a winner.
It is, 1937. The contest was to supply a jingle to be on the radio, like WDEV, so that we could get tourists to come up here and enjoy Vermont during the Depression and get some money into our economy. I think this would still work as a jingle today, I really do.
I just gotta
It's
get
like, see the USA in your Chevrolet, do you know, is that Dinah Shore? It's got that kind of vibe to it, yeah. Restful vacations in summer, winter sports to try that are hummers. Take a trip to the Green Mountain State, pleasure is calling, you should no longer wait. Visit Vermont and enjoy yourself, you'll find the trip will surely pay. Visit Vermont and see for yourself, don't take what other people say. See Vermont's beautiful forests and hills, crystal lakes and cooling rills. Visit Vermont and inhale your share of clear, invigorating air.
There must have been a shortage of ink in 37 because she wrote this very small.
Oh, it's hard for you to see. And there's a great verse about foliage season, anyway. So I was lucky to be able to do this recording that a lot of the songs you're hearing are on, and it benefits the Vermont Humanities Council. They do great work. And the one thing I love about it, I think I have an extra copy of that, in the inside booklet they have all the covers, the cover designs, and some of them are better than the music inside, including this next one.
Oh my God.
Is this Mrs.
This is the
Mrs. Arnold's? Okay.
Tribute to.
I hope she's not here. She was from Shelburne, Pauline Arnold, and it was a song for the 1959 celebration of Lake Champlain. And in the 1909 tercentenary celebration, we actually got the music from a lady in Colchester. We were singing in the library, and this lady had it in her music, her piano bench. But you can tell in 1959, all they cared about was tourism. So anyway, I'll tell you about the cover.
Yes.
So yeah, Samuel Champlain has got the full French regalia, he's got the big wig, and he's got the staff there. He's standing, mind you, in a canoe. So he's there, and you can see Camel's Hub in the background, he's standing. And at his feet are all these Native Americans looking up adoringly with like the wrong costume. It's like they came out of the Lakota Sioux with the big headdresses. It's just so, and it's got those horrible colors that I remember from the primers when I was little, like the Dick and Jane kind of covers. So I can only bear one verse, Arthur.
Oh, but there's so many. Your audience wants to hear more than that.
I want to get to the state song and have a cookie.
Yes.
I've been looking at
I want
those.
to have some watermelon.
It's not that bad. Yes, it is. We're so glad you came,
Who?
Samuel de Champlain. Found a lake so blue, rugged mountains too, canoes gliding on, water smooth and calm. Sea right caps roll high, spray flies to the sky. Hear the lake gulls cry. Boat, fish, swimming each day, sailboats racing round the bay. Fun is waiting there for you. Come and dance the whole night through. Bring your pal and gal to the festival. You will not forget Lake Champlain and its sunset. Well, we're going to end with the state song, but some of you may know the previous state song. Hail to Vermont, dear old Vermont. Governor Aiken loved it. It was written in '37, I think, by the music educator in Barrie, who was there forever.
Yes.
Yeah, Mrs. Perry. And after a while, nobody was singing it anymore. I think they taught it until the '60s. So by the '90s, Governor Dean thought we should have a new state song. You may remember this. It was on Vermont ETV. And at the State House one night, all these people came and performed songs about our state. They had the Essex Children's Choir, this fancy composer from Bennington, John Gilmore. And so people had to vote. I voted for John Gilmore, he's a folk singer, has a really good song about Vermont. But this one won the contest, and two composers. Diane Martin at the time was a 7th generation farmer in Plainfield, Vermont. It's no longer a farm though, and you know the other composer.
Rita, I used to see every day. I lived in Montpelier until recently, and my mail carrier was Rita. And Rita was not only famous for arranging this song, what we're going to hear exactly, but for wearing shorts all year long, even when it was January. She has very nice legs, by the way. A little muscular for me, but anyway. But I see Rita all the time, and I work at Bethany Church, and she delivers mail there. So I always tell her, I'll see her this week, I'll say, oh, we're up in Georgia singing your song. But it was funny, she came to my house one time in the evening, and she brought music to me, and she played it, and I played it on my piano, and I jazzed it up, and I said, this thing's really, whatever this is, it's really beautiful, exactly the way it is.
Yeah, simple, yeah.
Like simple, nice and low. And the harmonies, I said, just don't touch it, just leave it alone. And then I didn't know what it was about.
And she
then,
won.
And they won, so
Yeah.
it was good.
And I guess I thought about it because our quartet from the symphony sung at the elementary school, and all the children knew this song. So you've got a music educator who's
Georgia School.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It really is, and the words are in your program. So why don't I sing it once? And of course, we had the kids; they'd sing along right away. I'll sing it once just so we know the tune, and then we'll end with singing that, and then we'll have some cookies
And watermelon.
and whatever. Free song. These green hills and silver waters are my home. They belong to me and to all of her sons and daughters. May they be strong and forever free. Let us live to protect her beauty and look with pride on the golden dome. They say home is where the heart is. These green mountains are my home. These green mountains are my home. We could all stand up if you'd like to. Ready? These green hills and silver waters are my home. They belong to me and to all of her sons and daughters. May they be strong and forever free. Let us live to protect the beauty and look with pride on the golden dome. They say home is where the heart is. These green mountains are my home. These green mountains are my home. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for a really special program. I think this was great, and we want to thank the Vermont Humanities Council because it wouldn't have been possible without them and without you coming to Georgia, and the folks on the group, so thank you very much. Come on, let's go.